Mona Morse. Mr. Ivanovich does not know what to do with her. She seems intelligent, but her attitude is peculiar. Having learned other teachers either really like Mona Morse, or else they cannot stand her. He finds himself tending toward the latter category, though we'd never say so to her face. Mona's only 8, and Mr. Ivanovich is a professional who's been in the country just a few months. He's not about to screw this new job too soon. Mr. Ivanovich is destined for better, trained for better, frankly. Back in the old country, he taught university calculus. So, this morning, when the rest of grade 3 is seated resignedly at their desks awaiting their times tables test, Mona dallies in the cloakroom with her back turned as though she has all the time in the world. She currently appears to be combing her hair, which is cut too short to even need it. He's asked the class once to please be seated, or maybe he's asked twice. And now his patience is beginning to fray. He raises his voice and commands that Mona put the comb away and sit down immediately. The child turns slowly round and skulks toward her desk, still clutching the offending hair care item in her sweaty little hand. Was she deliberately disobeying him? Was she pretending not to understand? I told you to put away your comb, he says shortly, now leaving his post at the head of the class and striding toward Mona between the rows of desks. His pronunciation of comb sounds closer to calm, but Mr. Ivanovich is now far from calm. Mona doesn't help matters much by choosing this moment to correct his pronunciation. It's comb, not calm, and anyhow, it isn't a comb, it's a brush. She holds up the object to show him that it is, in fact, a brush, manufactured by Avon of hard molded plastic in the shape of Charlie Brown, with soft white bristles sprouting out the back of his head. Mr. Ivanovich cannot believe the girl's insolence. He grabs the brush from her extended fist and whacks her on the crown of the head with it. It makes a loud thwack. He likely regrets the action as soon as it's committed, while Mona won't give him the satisfaction of letting on how much her head now smarts. She sits down to her times tables test in a hell of shame, with flames burning the rims of her ears and a throbbing head blinking back tears. And as usual, the numerals refuse to line up in any proper way. Instead, they snake about the page like noodles. Mona's eyes and mind can't simultaneously follow whatever it is numbers are on about, and anyhow, she reads them all backwards. But this time she's not going to panic. There's a secret method she's been working on. Since she can't force the scribbly digits to stay in line, she's invented a system of signs based on patterns of dots, tapped out in the margins of her test paper. Her hand has no trouble understanding numbers as patterns. It was the same as memorizing phone numbers. Though her brain could never keep the digits in the right order, her fingers knew the shapes they drew on the keyboard. And thanks to Mona's secret method, her test score comes back very poor. Worse than this is the fact Mr. Ivanovich has taken the time to circle in red all her marginal dots and has written, "Don't do this," all over them. Without art class, Mona would have died. Her art teacher is Mr. Kestrel, a lanky septuagenarian with a speckled cranium, a trim white beard, and the constant motion of an orchestra conductor. Mona loves him dearly. Things he says make more sense to her than most anything else. He can see beneath the skins of things. Near Halloween, he brings in a portable tape recorder, avocado green and the size of a lunchbox, with a cassette tape of something called Danse Macabre. He describes the scene the music will be illustrating, passing around huge books of famous paintings about this same piece of music. Previous to this, Mona had no idea there were paintings about pieces of music. The paintings show skeletons waking up in climbing out of their graves and dancing around, really chipper, like death were one big party. When Mr. Kestrel finally plays the music, it does sound exactly like this. One of the skeletons is playing fiddle, and slowly all the dead people wake up to his playing and climb above ground and dance around. The music is creepy and cheerful at the same time. It's a coupling which makes perfect sense to Mona, though she's never heard anyone else speak of it but Mr. Kestrel. He hands around sheets of black construction paper with white chalk, so each kid could draw his or her own skeleton dancing in the graveyard. Mr. Kestrel can't resist even dancing around himself as the cassette wheedles on. It was one of the reasons most kids don't like Mr. Kestrel. They think he's weird. He does weird things, like keep dead birds and small mammals found by the roadside in his freezer, so he can practice amateur taxidermy on them. Then he brings the robin or marmot to art class to show kids its miraculous bone structure. He gets really excited talking about the skeletons of birds in particular, their wings and hollow bones. Once, he actually stands right up on his desk to demonstrate the wonder of avian bone structure. He stands on one leg like a stork does, folding long arms like wings behind his back, and then extending them in simulated flight. The effect is thrilling. Looks like he might fly right off his desk and around the room. But then at recess, Mona overhears some big kids saying Mr. Kestrel is really losing it these days. So she keeps her feelings to herself. Then, when Mr. Kestrel is away for several weeks having open heart surgery, Mona is the only one who asks him about it later. Probably the only student in the whole school to whom he shows the cross-shaped scar on his chest where they'd stitched him up like a scarecrow or like one of his birds. Yet hope springs eternal from darkened doorways and shrubberies. The more dire the fight for survival, the greater the necessity for levity, which must be why they call it making light.